She was not born into a military family, nor did she grow up thinking that one day she would be flying fighter jets thousands of feet above the earth. Captain Sarah Matthews grew up in a quiet town in the Midwest, the daughter of a schoolteacher and a retired firefighter. Life was simple, filled with small-town traditions, Sunday dinners, and long summer nights. But within Sarah burned a restless spirit, a desire to test her limits and prove that she could rise to challenges others might shy away from. From a young age, she was fascinated by airplanes, while other kids played with dolls or cars. She collected books on aviation and built model jets in her room. She knew early on that her life's path would take her into the skies. But the path was far from easy. When Sarah applied to the Air Force Academy, she faced skepticism. Some whispered that the program was too tough for women. Others suggested she should choose a safer path. Sarah ignored them. She worked harder than anyone around her, running miles before dawn, studying late into the night, and pushing her body and mind beyond exhaustion. Every time she stumbled, she got back up. Every time someone doubted her, she used it as fuel. By the time she graduated, she was not only among the top of her class, but she had also earned the respect of fellow cadets who once questioned her resolve. Soon after, she joined flight training, where she stepped into the cockpit of the F-16, a machine that demanded absolute precision and courage. She felt at home in the pilot's seat. It was during a deployment in the Middle East that Captain Matthews's name would become etched into military history. Her squadron was assigned a mission to provide aerial support for American ground forces operating deep in hostile territory. At first, it seemed like a routine operation, but then everything changed. One night, American troops found themselves ambushed by enemy fighters. Dozens of soldiers were pinned down, surrounded, and running low on ammunition. The situation was dire, and the call for air support went out immediately. Sarah was already airborne with her squadron when the message came through. She didn't hesitate. Through her headset, she could hear the panic in the voices of the soldiers on the ground. Bullets were raining down on them. Mortar fire lit up the night sky. Every second mattered. Sarah's voice, calm and steady, cut through the chaos. "Stay strong. We're with you. We won't let you fall tonight." Taking command of the mission, she coordinated precise strikes, weaving her jet through dangerous anti-aircraft fire. Each maneuver demanded perfect control, and each second brought the risk of being shot down. But she never faltered. Her squadron followed her lead, striking targets with accuracy and breaking the enemy's assault. Still, the fight was far from over. One of her wingmen was hit. His jet took heavy damage, forcing him into an emergency landing on hostile ground. Most pilots would have pulled away, unwilling to risk their own lives. But Sarah was not most pilots. She refused to abandon him. For nearly an hour, she circled above his crash site, holding off advancing enemy forces, calling in coordinates, and ensuring rescue helicopters had the cover they needed to reach him. She was a lone shield in the sky, standing between her comrade and certain death, when the rescue choppers finally lifted him to safety. Sarah allowed herself a brief exhale of relief before returning to finish the mission and secure the soldiers still trapped on the ground. By the end of the night, every single American made it home alive. Asterisk, when the details of the mission reached senior commanders. It didn't take long for the story to travel up the chain of command all the way to the White House. Stories of bravery in combat were not new, but what set this apart was the sheer determination, leadership, and selflessness of Captain Sarah Matthews. She had not only saved dozens of lives, but had done so by putting herself in direct danger, refusing to back down even when the odds were against her. President Donald Trump, known for his outspoken admiration of U.S. service members, was deeply moved by her courage. He wanted the nation to know her name. And so arrangements were made for a ceremony unlike any other. Weeks later, on a bright afternoon, the East Room of the White House was filled with people. Rows of decorated generals, proud families of service members, and officials from across The government stood in silence as the Marine band played. The doors opened, and Captain Sarah Matthews walked in wearing her crisp blue Air Force dress uniform. Her parents were seated in the front row, her father holding back tears, her mother clutching his hand. When her name was announced, the room erupted in applause. She walked to the stage, shoulders square, eyes forward, the embodiment of discipline. And Pride. President Trump stepped forward, the distinguished flying cross in his hands. As the applause faded, he turned to the audience and spoke. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we honor a true American hero. Captain Sarah Matthews' actions on the battlefield were nothing short of extraordinary. In the face of overwhelming danger, she showed courage, strength, and an unbreakable will. Because of her, American soldiers came home alive. She represents the very best of this nation." The room was silent, save for the echo of his words. Trump then turned to Sarah, looked her in the eye, and said, "Captain Matthews, you didn't just fly a mission, you flew into history. On behalf of the United States of America, thank you." He placed the medal on her uniform. The applause was thunderous. Generals stood at attention, soldiers saluted, and her parents could no longer hold back their tears. But Sarah, ever humble, simply saluted back and said, "Thank you, Mr. President. But I didn't do this alone. This medal belongs to every man and woman who stood with me that night. We are stronger together." The story of Captain Sarah Matthews spread across the country. Newspapers hailed her as a hero. Veterans spoke of her as an example for future generations. And young girls everywhere looked to her and realized that there was no limit to what they could achieve. For Sarah, the medal was not just an award. It was a reminder of the lives saved and the comrades who fought beside her. She continued to serve, training new pilots and passing on the lessons of courage, humility, and leadership. Her name became a symbol of what it means to never give up, to never leave anyone behind, and to rise above fear. And so, in that White House ceremony under the gaze of the president and the nation, a young woman from a small town became a living legend, a reminder that heroes come in many forms, and that sometimes the bravest among us are those who never sought the spotlight, but found it through their sacrifice. Captain Sarah Matthews' story is one of courage, loyalty, and the unshakable spirit of America's defenders. She did not ask to be called a hero, but her actions made her one. And when President Trump honored her with the nation's highest recognition, it was not just her victory, it was a victory for every soldier who has ever fought for the red, white, and blue.